Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today we're going to look at some of the latest Doctor Who news, including Ncuti Gatwa's new role, a brand new cast member for Doctor Who Season 2, and a bunch more clips for Episode 1, The Robot Revolution. This is probably going to be my final major news video for Doctor Who Season 2, because tomorrow, Doctor Who Season 2 itself actually launches. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Season 2 as it goes out, of course, and theories I have along the way, but this will be my last news video before Season 2 actually comes out. It's actually kind of insane that we're this close at this point, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. I realised that yesterday's video was a bit of a downer, and unfortunately I do have to open this video on a slight downer as well, but I promise after that it's going to be pretty much just looking at Season 2, looking at the series we've got ahead, and I'm just going to try and get as much out of this season as I can, whatever happens. But let's just get right into it. So the first bit of news I wanted to cover was this, which was actually released by the BBC 8 hours ago. Ncuti Gatwa cast as Elizabethan playwright Marlowe. Doctor Who star Ncuti Gatwa has been cast in a new play as Elizabethan playwright Christopher Marlowe, the Royal Shakespeare Company has announced. Born with Teeth will explore the relationship between a 27-year-old Marlowe and rising star William Shakespeare as they are forced to work together on a new piece of work. Gatwa said he's so excited to be appearing in the play, which he said was like no version of Shakespeare and Marlowe I've ever seen before. Shakespeare will be portrayed by Edward Blumel, who is starring in Killing Eve, A Discovery of Witches, and alongside Gatwa in Sex Education. The show will play for 11 weeks at the Wyndham's Theatre from 13th of August. And then it goes on to talk a bit about the play and stuff like that. I'm not going to read all that out. But it ends with this. He was cast as Doctor Who in 2022, taking over the lead role from Jodie Whittaker, his second season as the Doctor, due to begin airing this weekend. Gatwa's casting in Born with Teeth comes after unconfirmed reports that he is set to leave Doctor Who and that the show may be facing the axe. Neither Gatwa, the BBC, or Disney Plus have commented on the reports. And it's that last thing I want to talk about, because Gatwa is taking on another role, which of course doesn't necessarily mean anything on its own inherently. However, it does paint a very specific picture, especially after Russell T Davies's quotes from yesterday. Now, it is worth noting that even during Season 1, he was filming Doctor Who Sex Education Season 4. So it's not entirely impossible that, he could film a Doctor Who series while something else was going on. However, the theatre is very involved, and it was kind of assumed that after his last theatre venture, The Importance of Being Earnest, the gap in his schedule would be filled, presumably, by filming for a third Doctor Who series. And of course, that hasn't come to pass for a variety of reasons. And now he is going to be in this play for 11 weeks, starting from the 13th of August. So that will take him from August to November. And as we know, a decision on Doctor Who Season 3 and, the Disney deal and all that stuff won't be made until after Season 2 airs, at least officially, which means that we won't know what's going on with Season 3 until at least May. I think you understand where I'm going with this. There's no way he can film a series this year if he's going to be doing something as intense as a theatre production from August all the way till November, which leaves probably two possible options. Option number one, Gatwa is leaving Doctor Who, and Doctor Who will film this year but with someone else in the lead, or option two, Doctor Who is not being filmed at all this year, and potentially a break could be on the way, or potentially even both. And I don't want to try and, alarm anyone again. I'm trying to look at this as objectively as possible. It's really annoying because when I look at stories like this, half of the comments are saying, you're being too pessimistic, this could mean nothing, and the other half are saying, no, it's obviously dead, why are you trying to, obfuscate it? So I'm really trying to be in the middle about this. This is not coming from someone who wants Doctor Who to do poorly. I want Doctor Who to do well. I even like a lot of the current era. But I can't ignore what, to me at this stage, are very obvious kind of warning signs and indicators. You've got Russell T Davies saying that the Doctor is a character like Robin Hood, where even if they take a break, eventually someone will bring them back, grow up and bring them back. And then the following day, you have it announced that Ncuti Gatwa is taking on another role for the majority of the year, which likely means that, while it's not impossible he could film some Doctor Who, it's probably not going to be the easiest thing for him, and even if they do film some Doctor Who with him, we'll probably end up in a similar scenario to what we have with Season 1, where he's absent for a good chunk of the series, which I don't think will be the case. I think it's much more likely either he's going and the show films with a new Doctor, or the show is not filming. Now, we did hear rumours ages ago about a surprise regeneration at the end of Season 2 that was refilmed. Is that happening? I don't know. But if it is, this announcement would make sense. Of course, they're not going to say Gatwa is leaving until the time is right, probably until that surprise regeneration. Maybe they're going to try and leave it, a surprise. I don't think a new Doctor has been cast or anything. I think it'll be very similar to what we probably would have gotten with Power of the Doctor, where essentially it, fades to black after the regeneration begins, if that is indeed what's happening. But to me, following all the other signs, it feels pretty obvious to me at this point that the writing is on the wall for either Gatwa or just the show for a little bit. I'd love to be wrong. I actually do really like Ncuti Gatwa in the role and I want him to stay longer. But looking at this, it just doesn't seem likely at this stage. And that sucks, because I really do think that Gatwa has a lot of potential in the role that we've not yet seen. But to me, it's becoming increasingly obvious that he wants to go and do other things. The show's production is currently on hold, and I don't know whether he wants to wait for the show to make up its mind on what it's doing in the future. And to be honest, I can't really blame him. As an actor, you would want to be busy. You don't want to be waiting around on the off chance that you're needed. So I completely get it from his perspective. It just sucks, because I genuinely do quite like him in the role. And especially with the reduced episode counts, I really felt that this Doctor would have needed to be a 4-series run to really get, a full kind of, run out of him. Because even with the traditional 3 series, we'd be looking at 24 episodes, which even then is significantly less than what most other Doctors have gotten. But to be now potentially only looking at 20 episodes is a little bit sad. And of course, this would also mean that they're almost certainly not filming a Christmas special this year. At least not one with Gatwa. So yeah, again, I'm not trying to over-catastrophize, but I have to be honest and say that this isn't a great sign. And I won't lie when I say it has genuinely put a dampener on my excitement for Season 2, which up until now I genuinely do think has looked really good. And we're actually going to be looking at some new clips from it today that I genuinely think do look good and fun. And from this point onwards in the video, I am going to try and look at that with that perspective and just enjoy Season 2 for what it is. But I also can't sugarcoat it. I can't deny that this stuff isn't happening when, it is. And again, maybe I'll be wrong, but from everything I'm seeing, it just seems more and more likely that, stuff is going on behind the scenes, which sucks. I've also seen a few fans take to kind of blaming fans for talking about this and saying that, oh, you're feeding into vitriol and negativity. And believe me, that's not my intention. I understand that there are people who are very uncharitable to Doctor Who for all the wrong reasons, and that is not where I come at this from. However, when the BBC themselves end the article talking about the exact thing that I'm talking about, I really don't think I'm overstretching to discuss this in the way that I am. In full truth, I kind of wish this wasn't a factor in the next series. I would much prefer that we were just talking about the next series and we didn't have to worry about the show's future, but that's just not the indication we're being given by the powers that be. And of course, we're not going to know officially what's happening until then, but I do think that one of the side effects of this Disney deal being constructed in the way that it is, not having a yes or no answer on the show's future until after this series, it does leave everyone kind of on edge, one way or the other. And I think that kind of does dampen things a bit, at least for me. But no, I don't go into this being wanting any of this to be true or wanting to feed into it. But I can't ignore it either. You've got to sort of acknowledge these things, because I do think that what we've seen in the last couple of days is an escalation of stuff we've spoken about previously. Before now, it was largely Sun articles and, he said, she said, and my uncle who works at the BBC said this. And in a lot of those cases, I can say, well, yeah, that's not really got a lot of evidence to it. And I said as much when we covered the Sun article back when that came out. But it's not really the same when you're talking about the direct quotes of a showrunner and actual, facts. You know what I mean? It's not the same thing. I think this is a different situation. And I do think that people covering it are going to talk about it in these terms because it would be disingenuous not to. But anyway, in other more positive news, Graham Norton has been officially announced to be in episode 6, the Interstellar Song Contest. it wouldn't be an Interstellar Song Contest without Graham Norton. The comedian, broadcaster, and king of Eurovision goes to the Intergalactic for Season 2. Now, I think a lot of people kind of speculated this. I believe this was in the original Mirror report for this episode that we all read, and we all kind of assumed maybe it was Ryland taking on the role and not Graham Norton. But now it's been confirmed that both of them are in this episode. I find it really funny that the episode in Season 2 with probably the biggest star power may also be the one that doesn't air on broadcast due to football delays. That's very funny, but nonetheless, this does look very fun. Dow's points for Doctor Who. Graham Norton's set for Season 2 appearance. The Whoniverse welcomes the legendary Eurovision host in the wildest episode of Season 2. Calling all Eurovision fans, this season of Doctor Who will follow the Doctor and Ncuti Gatwa and Belinda Chandra as they travel to the 803rd Song Contest, where planets from across the universe compete for the top prize, and along for the ride is the king of Eurovision himself, Graham Norton. Graham Norton joins the ensemble cast for this episode, which includes guest appearances from Star Just Agent Screen, Freddie Fox, Rylan Cardiff Kerwin, Charlie Condu, and Miriam Teak Lee. Russell T Davies showrunner said there's no song contest without the great man himself, and it was an honour to welcome Graham Norton to our studios in Cardiff, and it's not just a cameo. He has a whole plot twist all to himself. This is the wildest episode of all, and we're lucky to have Graham adding to the mayhem. The Interstellar Song Contest, which features an appearance from Graham Norton, is the 6th episode of the upcoming series, set to transmit on Saturday the 17th of May. So there you go, another cast member announced. This does seem like the most star-studded episode of Doctor Who in recent memory. I'll be curious to see how it does. It does look like a lot of fun, and I'm more excited for this episode than I was previously, on the basis that Russell T Davies said in Radio Times magazine that it's got a darker edge than its initial title suggests. And the fact that he has a plot twist all to himself is interesting. I'm wondering what that is. But I am really glad that they got him in it for two reasons. One, obviously he is the host of Eurovision over here, so it just sort of makes sense, and it'll probably draw a big, crowd for that. And also the Graham Norton show is the biggest kind of like sit-down celebrity chat show in the UK, so on that level it's got a level of draw to it. And also, Graham Norton has quite the history with Doctor Who itself. Obviously, I've spoken before about how he interrupted both the broadcast of Rose and Time of Angels, albeit completely, unintentionally. It was to do with, in Rose's case, it was the sound mix, and then in Series 5, one of his little guys comes along the screen during the Time of Angels cliffhanger. So yeah, it's very, very funny that he's finally getting an official appearance, and I think that's going to be good fun. Elsewhere though, we've had an absolute shed load of brand new clips from the Robot Revolution, and I'm probably going to end up missing some because we've had so many, but these are the 3 that I've seen, and I want to walk you through them because they are genuinely very funny.
Belinda, what's going on?
Do you know Lucy at number 7?
Yes.
Tell her the cat's gone to live on a farm. Apparently I'm the Queen of Outer Space, if you could tell the police. My mum and dad. Oh, my poor mum and dad. Tell them robots are kidnapping me. Tell them I love them.
I'll take care, Belinda. Bye-bye.
Transmat initiated.
Seen me.
Okay, so a very fun clip. Obviously, it shows Belinda being kidnapped by the robots and sent to Miss Belinda Chandra 1. The thing I find really funny is how casually Mrs. Flood is just like, bye-bye, love, bye-bye. I also love the robots' voices, and of course, the fourth wall break of you ain't seen me. What is her deal? I don't know. But this clip is very fun, very enjoyable, and I love how genuinely distraught she is, whilst Mrs. Flood just could not care less. Very, very funny. This was originally from the Doctor Who Instagram account, and I'm taking it from the Post Monument. We had another clip, which I believe is a similar type of clips to what we've seen before with episodes. They did this last year, but they'll do like a TikTok summary of what to expect in the episode. So here is the summary that they've given.
Hello, robots.
What to expect in this week's episode?
We have got a world to overthrow.
Meet Belinda.
Miss Belinda Chandra, proceed towards the throne of the Queen.
A robot or two? Leave these people alone.
And a mysterious enemy.
Be warned, no help is coming. You will surrender to...
Interesting, because I originally thought that the AI robot guy was going to be the guy that we saw in the Disney trailer, but this looks very different. This is almost Wizard of Oz-esque. Very interesting. I will say as well, obviously I know it's Nick Briggs doing the voices. The voices are incredibly Cyberman-y, which I don't know whether that's intentional or whether it is just Nick Briggs' robot voice. Either way, I like it.
Chandra, proceed towards the throne of the Queen.
But yeah, it looks good. It looks fun. Again, I don't think this is going to be like the best episode of the series or anything. I think that, you know, it'll probably be a relatively light opener, but for that, it looks quite ambitious and quite fun. I'm hoping for something in the vein of something like Smith & Jones, for example. And then this final one is kind of an extension of the one we saw via the talk shows. It's the scene where the Doctor reveals his two hearts and makes the Kylie Minogue reference, but I'm going to show you it in more detail.
Ta-da!
Have you got two hearts?
Padam, padam.
No way. Can I? Do you mind if I?
So yeah, this is pretty much all the same so far.
Wow. That's so weird. But the Pascular man, he hasn't got two hearts.
No. I'm not Miss Belinda Chandra kind. I'm from a different planet.
Okay. Another alien. Add it to the list.
So yeah, we've got obviously that scene of her first discovering that the Doctor is an alien. Obviously, she mentions a Pasculum man, who I'm assuming is, you know, obviously just another character that we haven't seen yet, but of course, she says that they don't have two hearts, and he says, well, yeah, that's because I'm not actually from this planet, I'm from another one. Good scene again, you know, not much else to say on that one. But finally, I guess to end on a positive note, we had some good news. This is coming from, I believe, Digital Spy originally. Doctor Who lands perfect 100% score for new season, packed with joyous surprises. The latest season of Doctor Who has landed a rare perfect score on Rotten Tomatoes. Ncuti Gatwa returns to the title role of the 50th Doctor, while Varada Sethu has joined the cast as the new companion. Millie Gibson is also set to return as Ruby Sunday in the beloved BBC sci-fi series, which returns on Saturday with season premiere The Robot Revolution. Ahead of its premiere, early reviews have seen the latest season of Doctor Who score an impressive 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes at the time of writing. Here's what the critics are saying. The Times. It's fun, fast-paced hour of TV, laced with Davis's landmark wit and the joyous surprises you expect from a man who clearly longs for that blue box to come and sweep him far, far away. Inverse says, where the show seemed to be uncertain of its audience and tone in the previous season, Season 2 charges confidently ahead, experimenting with form and social commentary in bold and exciting ways. That's an interesting review, because that is one of my issues with Season 1, is that it felt unsure of its tone. It was very all over the place. So the idea of Season 2 being more assured of its tone is a good sign to me. Screen Rant. Doctor Who Season 15 kicks off with a lackluster episode, but promises things to come as it establishes a new Doctor companion dynamic. I actually don't know what the requirements are for something to get 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know whether it's just like critics or how it works, or is it like an aggregate score? I really don't know, but I assume it's good. Pace Magazine says that there are many elements of Doctor Who that have inconsistent qualities, but Gatwa's performance as the 50th Doctor is never one of them. And yeah, if we look here at Matthew Purchase, it does say 100% on Doctor Who Season 2 at the current moment with 7 reviews. Although it does say that Space Babies was scored at a 93% the previous season. So I would take this with a massive grain of salt, but I guess it's a good thing for now. Interestingly, the 50th Doctor is also set to make an appearance on Jeopardy, I believe tomorrow, at time of recording this, which is very exciting. And finally, I wanted to finish on this because we might as well. Doctor Who Unleashed returns for its second series, and here are some behind-the-scenes images of it, but most importantly, to my international viewers, Doctor Who Unleashed will be available around the world immediately on broadcast on YouTube, which wasn't the case for Season 1. They eventually did upload Doctor Who Unleashed to YouTube fairly recently, but I believe this is the first time that it's being uploaded for the rest of the world at the same time we get it on BBC and BBC iPlayer. So that's very, very cool. And I'm very, very glad that international audiences are going to be able to watch Doctor Who Unleashed as well. I always thought that it was weird that, like, Disney didn't have a deal for this, but I don't know how it works. I don't know how the contracts work, but nonetheless, I'm glad that international audiences can watch this part of the Doctor Who world, I suppose, the behind-the-scenes production aspect of it. There was also this, which was kind of an introduction to Belinda Chandra, but to be honest, there's been so many clips, I can't remember whether we've covered this one or not, but we might as well.
I'm Vedla Sethu, and I play Belinda Chandra.
So what's your name?
Just the Doctor?
All right then. I'm called the nurse.
She's a nurse, and we meet Belinda at her place of work.
There's the Doctor looking for you.
Tell me about it. See you tomorrow.
And she gets plucked out of that so unceremoniously.
Get me home!
It's such a privilege to be able to inhabit this character, this world, and especially with someone as amazing as Ncuti.
Girl, you are beginning to enjoy this.
I don't think there are many jobs where you get to kind of still play the same person, but in different scenarios and different worlds.
You're Scooby-Doo.
Honey, I'm Velma.
It really is the dream job.
So there you go, nice. One thing I will say, I really love how forcefully she says, "Get me home." I don't think the 50th Doctor has really had to deal with much kind of pushback on a lot of what he does. So I'm really glad that that's something that's happening in this series. Once again, I do hope that it's not just for the first episode. Like, I hope she's not just, you know, forceful in wanting to go home in the first episode and then by episode 2, you know, she's just completely on board with TARDIS travel. I want it to be a slow, gradual realization that, no, I actually do like being on the TARDIS and being on these adventures. And hopefully that is what they do. But yeah, that's about all the news that I have for you today. There might be some stuff that happens this evening, and if there is, I may do a live stream giving over my final theories and hopes for Doctor Who Season 2, so stay tuned for that. Apologies if I seem a bit out of it. I'm honestly a little bit knackered. I've been uploading a lot, and I've got to get up early tomorrow for the start of Season 2, of course. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video and have enjoyed my coverage. Subscribe if you're new, like if you enjoy, and I'll see you later.